Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Métis Coffee Talk. My name is Keith Henry. I'm the president of the BC Métis Federation, and I'm joining you live for this, Thursday. Hard to believe, almost the end of June already, but June 26th, right around the corner from Canada Day. And I just want to welcome to the show a person who's been with us many years as we've hosted Métis Coffee Talk, our director of research, Mr. Joe Desjardins. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. Welcome to the viewers.
Perfect. Well, Joe, obviously you're at home in North Van. I'm at home tonight doing the show, not from the office because I had a lot on the go today. What's the weather like in North Van for you?
Well, it's been raining, which is kind of cloudy, and which is nice. I think we need a bit of rain and moisture and all that. So here we are. I mean,
Well, I want to thank you, Joe, for joining this month. I know we are going to come back to you, Joe, and I'm going to come back to you after the first item. Tonight, I'm going to start off. There was some media coverage that obviously affects a lot of members, right? We have been advocating for the place of our membership from the BC Métis Federation for a number of years. A lot of members here watching tonight know that we've been around for 15 years now. We're not new. We started in basically 2010, 2011, and now we're in 2025. So hard to believe but it's been a really challenging road as we've been building the BC Métis Federation as an alternative organization for Métis people to choose from freely. And I want to start with that because we know that we filed a lawsuit against Canada. It's not against any other Métis organization. It's not about fighting against First Nations. So I just want to just start the show tonight by talking a little bit about that because CBC released an article yesterday that, quite honestly, I found just really not capturing exactly what this case is really about. And so I'm just going to start with a couple opening comments that our case against Canada that has now been filed and is now before the courts, and the Attorney General responded. The case is still alive and well. There are people misinterpreting that somehow that statement from the Attorney General that's in the public records now is that the case has been dismissed. That's absolutely not true. But our case is basically that we want Canada to continue to recognize the Federation and our members. It's that simple. We're not doing that to trying to tear down anyone else. We're just saying we've been around a long time and we deserve to be recognized. This really is about all Métis people in British Columbia being treated equally by Canada and without leaving any Métis people out. And the truth that we know is today that Métis people are being left out because they've chosen to have the BC Métis Federation be their political representative. It's a really important point because in Canada, under the Constitution, specifically one of the articles in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is the freedom of association. And so we're saying to the courts, the government continues to sort of be schizophrenic with us. They work with us in some ways and in other ways they don't. So let's just get this answer once and for all. Can Canada just simply go about their business and choose political allies as they have been for so long? Because there's no law or legislation that requires them only to work with one Métis organization. They don't certainly work with one First Nation, so I don't know why there's this one window approach. Which of course, I understand MNBC people love that. Of course, they've been able to benefit from that position. But we're saying, why are you not treating all Métis people equally? We also aren't against the MNBC and their right to represent their citizens. That's up to them. Like the Métis Nation BC, we've been down that road debating issues before, and we get it. They're there. Good luck to them. They can look after their health, employment and training, childcare needs, whatever that is for their citizens, that's fine. We're not here to say that they shouldn't, but they certainly continue to say that they should, that we cannot have a voice in that process, and we think that's wrong. There's other things that I don't understand because I have seen a lot of social media since last night, particularly from some of the MNBC supporters talking about, well, see, Canada's chosen and we applaud the government. But what I think those people didn't read within the actual, what was submitted, because they didn't obviously read the full submission, is that Canada continues to say there's no Section 35 Métis people in British Columbia, whether you're MNBC or not. So I think there's a bigger issue here over time that we have to address, that we believe we are protected under Section 35, and we need to understand what does that actually mean for all Métis people in British Columbia, not just the BCMF. So the fact that MNBC has yet to really understand that or even acknowledge that that's a major challenge for them as well, it just speaks volumes to how the lack of awareness they have about advocating for Métis rights. And in the media interview that I did yesterday to try and help them tell the story properly and the narrative properly in the CBC, they kept trying to come back to, well, this is about if you get this, it's going to be in conflict with First Nations. And I just want to say to everyone, we don't want to, we have no interest in, we're not trying to fight or compete for rights and title. We never have. And I know that certain MNBC supporters and cronies, as I call them, continue to sort of try to create that narrative. So I just want to be clear about that's a big challenge to us. And I think that as our members want to know that the bottom line is our case is carrying on. That is just simply a submission from the Attorney General. We disagree with it. We have prepared our filings. And I just want to show tonight a couple examples of why we've been making this case for a very long time and why we will continue to do so continually. And I guess maybe before I do that, I just want to bring us the actual, show for everyone tonight a little bit about the actual CBC article, because without a doubt, this article that came out certainly surprising, I guess, if nothing else, to myself particularly. So as I bring it up on the screen, I think I would just want to say to everyone that I don't get caught up in the rhetoric of some of this stuff. Like people that don't understand the legal process are chiming in and they're trying to act like bunkhouse experts now. And I just would say there's a long road through this process and we are far from done. And so the title in itself, I mean, I get it. This is exactly what Canada said. Everyone knows Canada. Sorry, I'll just make this a bit larger for everyone at home. Canada's lawsuit by a group claiming to represent BC Métis should be dismissed. Sure, that's the government's position. Of course, we disagree with that. Now, the case in here that I won't go through all the written piece in here, but I just want to let people know, particularly what was troublesome to me as the president of the Federation. It says a statement from MNBC says it does not impede its citizens from registering with other organizations, and they will still maintain MNBC membership if they choose to do so. MNBC said some of its members are also registered with BCMF. Well, I find that statement completely untrue, and absolutely anyone who's watching tonight that's been following this issue for a very long time, we know that the MNBC has made a strategic effort for the last few years that unless you're a citizen of the MNBC, you can't get services. So they do impede their citizens. They absolutely tell people you can't belong to both organizations, and our case will prove this. That's what I'm trying to let our members know tonight. These statements in this media article are absolutely untrue and troublesome to me, because they create a narrative that somehow MNBC is just trying to do their job and whatever. And I'm not here to say that they don't do some good things, but I will say those statements are irresponsible, and I wish the journalist or the reporter would have actually asked us, because that's the crux of our case. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So these are the kind of correspondence we get on a regular basis, just to give you just a one or two examples. And for those of you that may or may not remember, I just want to share this with you so everyone can understand some of the stuff we've seen over the last quite some time. So this is one of the MNBC chartered communities. They sent us this last in 24. I'm writing on behalf of the South Okanagan Smilkameen Métis Association to request confirmation regarding the membership status of Mr. Charlene Lowe. Specifically, we need to verify whether Charlene is currently a member of the BCMF. They have a policy that prohibits double membership, meaning individuals cannot be members of both SOSMA and BCMF or MMF simultaneously. So what they're trying to do, and you see here, Charlene's applied to access certain programs and services offered by SOSMA, and as part of our verification process, we require confirmation that she does not hold. Bottom line is, unless you're politically aligned and you choose to get rid of your membership with us, that you cannot be served. That is very incongruent with the statement that they just made in the media. And this is the essence of our case around the charter, the freedom of association. If you're Métis, you should be allowed to access public funds, which MNBC delivers, only public funded programs. That's one example, one of many examples. Let me give you another example that it's in black and white. I mean, these things aren't debatable. They're in black and white, which is the reason why we've gone down this road in this case. I'll pull up another example here for you. It's an email from another individual who's trying to get support for employment and training services. And I can only tell people at home tonight, this is a drop in the bucket of what we see. So in this case, unfortunately, we can only accept Métis Nation BC citizenship. We do not accept BC, the Métis Federation citizenship. You will need to apply for MNBC citizenship. You can apply by following the link below. They can wordsmith all they want. The message is clear here. If you're with us, you definitely can't get services. Even though we have an objectively verifiable, let's put this narrative the rest are saying that our members aren't really Métis Nation historic people. Well, that's absolutely untrue. And our research continues, whether it's understanding the history of the Métis evolution through the Pacific Northwest, or families like my own. Like, we are historic, my family's historic Métis Nation. What are we talking about here? So in this case, so now we've seen two people of many, and there's many others, that we've entered into the courts that have been discontinued from the ability of getting programs and services, all because they freely chose to have us represent them. And I just end with one more thing, and then I'm going to ask Joe maybe to weigh in on a couple comments. Let's go back to the video of the Métis Nation BC. So I've shown you from a chartered community perspective, from an MNBC staff perspective. Let's recall what happened not that long ago at the Métis Nation Governing Assembly of the MNBC, where they ridicule the work of the Federation and so forth. And I just want people, please remember, we're just trying to represent our community members, our number of members across BC. So I'll just share this with you, and I've shared this before, but I'll share a few minutes of it just to refresh our memories about how they speak about anyone who's not with MNBC.
Jamie Keith, leader of SOSMA, South Okanagan Similkameen Métis, and BCMF has just opened up a chapter in the Okanagan, and it has certainly caused some friction. When we get new citizens, I will not sign their form unless I meet with them to explain the breadth of their rights and the role of SOSMA and MNBC. That's been a big role in contributing to why SOSMA is so active, because I meet with people. But oftentimes they will pull out their BCMF card and say, "And what does this get me?" And I jokingly say, "Kicked out." But I know that my board can be very, their biggest knock on me is that I'm way too harsh about it. But I really do believe that, no, our citizens are smart. They are capable of learning the difference between the two and understanding why it's important that they not have both. I really think it's a big mistake when people have both, because it cheapens our nation. It makes it seem like it's just about getting benefits and collecting the points that you get when you pass Go. And people need to understand this is not the Pokemon Go of Métis Nation, gotta catch all the cards. It's important that people understand that when they get an MNBC card, they're part of a nation. And to be part of multiple, especially when that other one is causing so much issues, it's important to know. And while I don't fault anyone who doesn't understand and just gets both, it's important that they learn and they educate themselves. And this is a great starting point to have that conversation. I will certainly say, if this passes, I have 6 screenshots ready to be sent off to the registrar of people online on Facebook saying they have all these memberships. So I'm pretty excited for this one to pass.
To board, Two Rivers Métis.
So,
I've kind of got two questions and then a comment that I kind of want some clarity on. One, if you...
I guess what I'll say to people is, the commentary speaks for itself. We can hear the disdain they have for our members. They treat our Métis individuals like they're second-class citizens. I disagree with this commentary. A lot of these people like to use loaded language and make it sound like they're there for the people and everything. We've never entered into we built the Federation. We are very proud of the membership system we use, which requires genealogical documentation. We are not just chase a bunch of ambulance chasers trying to identify Métis people that aren't actually Métis. That's absolutely untrue. And to hear people in our own Métis world talking about other Métis people this way has continued to be the reason why we went to court. Only a few years ago, MNBC was providing support to our members, and we were okay with that. We never wanted to be the service delivery agency. That was never the intention of the BC Métis Federation. But they've convinced themselves more than anything at that table, and these different leaders I see today. I saw stuff from the current MNBC leadership writing about goodbye BCMF when they saw this Attorney General response. Well, I disagree with that. It's very childish to publicly write stuff like that, especially considering that that's not actually what happened in the legal procedure. But we'll work our way through it. The evidence, that's a small glimmer of what we're dealing with. We've offered to meet, many people know that, with MNBC for years and years. We've got letters from them telling them they refuse to meet with us. It's not like they weren't given an opportunity to make it different over the last 10 years. They have been many, many times. So I say to everyone watching tonight, just, don't debate in foolishness with people that don't want to hear the truth of the challenges, or they make up, they make it up as they go, and they try and falsely make some of you believe that this case has been thrown out. It's not the case at all. I could go on about this for a long time, Joe, but I mean, I know you've been around watching some of that stuff evolve, and you've seen our members negatively impacted. And I mean, they make it seem like we're out in it for money to deliver services. Nothing could be further from the truth. Any response to any of this? I mean, it's not a very nice conversation, of course, but we have to inform our members and partners here tonight.
Sure, Keith, thanks for that. I think that, Métis people should be able to have more latitude in determining who speaks for them. I think that's the first thing I would be saying around this. And to me, it's, because we've done a lot of research around the Pacific Northwest, and we know, like, governments, the historical roots have been politicized to reflect one group, whether it's the Prairie Métis or the Red River Métis, in a way where they're distinct and where they're like separate from First Nations. But that's not the historical record, and we're hearing the historians telling us this. You have people like legal academics and other people saying that, well, when we actually look at Pauli and other court cases, they don't necessarily reflect the historical realities of Métis people on the ground. And we know that in our families. I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't account for the nuances, the complexity, and the kinship we have in our own families and the right of our members. If we look, we've done a lot of research around Treaty 8. We've done research, and the historical realities were way more contingent and messy than governments and some Métis organizations would like to portray it. And we need to have more of an elastic and adaptive and flexible approach to Métis identity in the way. And it's disturbing to me because, we know in the historical record when it comes to First Nations and Métis, I have one account where a doctor went with the Treaty 8 Commission. He said, look, everyone is mixed ancestry. And here you have people up there talking about the fluidity between the communities. And when the way they reacted to Treaty 8 is Métis went into treaty, they went out of treaty, they were self-determining depending on context. And that's the big message I have, Keith, when it comes to all these court cases and the way that Métis identity tends to be reified or put in a certain way that freezes them in place. I'm saying there's a real story about Métis kinship that we're trying to help come out here, and our community researchers are helping us with that story, and we've seen successive efforts by governments to be able to suppress Métis and shut down these stories. And the government has used colonial descriptors, definitions based on race to control us. We're saying, hey, we ought to be able to tell our own stories. So I think that, Keith.
Yeah, I think just on this one, we'll cut for a little bit of a break just to give everyone some time to think about this. What I want our viewership to know tonight is that our case is simply about freedom of association, that you can freely choose, to your point, Joe, who represents you. It's not up to Canada to create winners and losers. And what we're saying, it's about equal access for all Métis. And they can't tell me that MNBC is doing that because they're doing stuff. And this is another example of the stuff we see. You know, they're going through all their chartered communities. This was I was, you know, provided this last year, and it's entered into our court documents. You look at Resolution 1, Métis Nation, Métis Governing Organization membership. Whereas, in this case, it was the Golden Ears Métis Society maintains a chartered community status with the Métis Nation BC. That's not our communities. We call ours our partner communities. We've created a parallel process just so we could distinguish between who represents who. GEM, in this case, then they can as a society, in this case in Golden Ears or around the Maple Ridge area, I suppose, operates on mutual trust and respect. And be it resolved, now read carefully here, 2.5, that they added this to all the bylaws of their charter communities, that members of the society may not hold additional memberships in another Métis governing organization in British Columbia. Now think about what they just said to the media. MNBC's statement was they can. No, they can't. So they're creating a publicly deceptive narrative. This is what they've been doing, and I would gather that every one of the chartered communities that they work with in the province has been told, given their marching orders, that members of the society may not hold additional membership in another Métis governing organization. Now, if that's not self-explanatory about trying to say, and then on the other hand, if we go back to the article, and this I let the reporter know, you know, in the future, can you please make sure that you do a little bit of investigative journalism, because they published a quote in here in their article, and I just want to read a statement from MNBC says it does not impede its citizens from registering with other organizations. That is not true. They absolutely impede. They absolutely put it out there in public records. We saw it from a governing member meeting from last year. We saw it individually with our members getting told they can't get access to services for publicly funded programs. And we can see how they're going through and now changing the governance as we speak systematically through 30 plus of their nonprofit societies across British Columbia. So I don't know how any journalist can write on here allow that and not allow, and at least not be aware of it. So I am frustrated because I think that, you know, what I often see in Indigenous politics is whether it's CBC in this case or others, when they do some investigative journalism, they're lazy and they don't want to really get in the minutia of it. But words matter and intentions matter. So, Joe, any last words on this? I mean, we've just painted a picture for all folks, and they can freely choose to believe what they want, but the facts speak for themselves. Our case is definitely alive and well. These facts will be discussed and debated, and Canada will have to defend its position. MNBC has every right to do what they want, but so do we. And so, any final words, Joe, on that?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, MNBC has the right to represent their members, but we have the right to represent ours. And
That's
I think
right.
I'll leave it at that, Keith.
Yeah, that's what I want people to be aware of, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we are going to see that through. And I thank our members that have been going through this case with us, and really just making sure that we can work together. So on that note, we'll break. It's a very heavy conversation, I know, but let's put a little. I got an old Métis fiddle music tune. Our friend Renee is not available this month. I want to put it's an old online tune from about 2008, long time ago. Ryan Moran, another young fiddler. I love the way they describe the fiddle and the way they play it here, the music. I'm just going to play a song of theirs, and then we'll come back after, Joe, and get an update on your research, okay? So just bear with us. We'll just share this now. Well, Joe, that was some pretty catchy fiddling from a young man from many, many years ago. I'll play another song from them a little later when we have a break again. With some people know Ryan Moran. He's now has been heavily involved in other Indigenous work since his time, but this was back in 2008. But what do you think, Joe? Was that did I get your? I saw you bouncing in your chair there a little bit. Is that Métis fiddle music getting to you?
Yeah, you bet. I just about pulled out my guitar, Keith.
Yeah, I know you're an old Métis musician yourself, so I shouldn't say old. Well, you know what, Joe? I know you're doing a lot. I know we touched on it a little bit, but why don't we give everyone a bit of an update about some of the work you're doing? Of course, uh, in the sorry in the research department. So why don't I turn it over to you and we'll pull up your slides, okay?
You bet. Thanks, Keith and everybody. I just want to give a little bit of an update in terms of our Pacific Northwest Métis research. Keith, there's a slide. We can just quickly whip through some of these slides and people can and members can understand what we're doing. You can put it to, yeah, that's fine. And then what we see here is the first slide. It's interesting what happened. We've been building on our relationship with the Library and Archives Canada here. You can see a letter of support from Library and Archives Canada. And these things take time to develop, and it really is about relationships. I like to say relationships, relationships, relationships. I keep drumming it into myself and to other people because oftentimes so many other things get in the way. But we're building on this through a letter of support. You know, we have hundreds of finds in our research right across the Pacific Northwest that need to be formatted, digitized. You know, GIS is a way of digitizing, representing our history and memory in the Pacific Northwest. And I think that this LAC, go ahead to the next slide, Keith, digitization project, BC Métis Research Support Project has been funded by Library and Archives Canada. We're excited to receive the support from LAC. We're one of 37 groups across Canada. And, you know, I think it's so important that that this message is heard. And I just want to read a quote that when they announced it, they said that these projects are were chosen because of their significant impact on the preservation and accessibility of documentary heritage and their importance to society as a whole. Well, there you go. You have a federal government agency supporting Métis people in the Pacific Northwest because they recognize that Pacific Northwest research and the ability to digitize this work is so important. You can go to the next slide, Keith. And we're trying to address the backlog of digitization. We want to expand our knowledge of Métis right across the Pacific Northwest. What is the significance of this funding? It allows the team to continue their good work. And the next slide, you can see the operational team, myself, Dr. Shelby, and Tanner, they've been invaluable support to the team. And to the next slide, you can see the local researchers. Now, we decided upon a community-based approach because rather than hire experts, we said we want to work with our community, and that's the other significance. We want to empower Métis people in their local communities to do their own research on their own behalf, by Métis, for Métis and others. And we really take that seriously. It's very different from the approaches, the top-down approaches that we're seeing when it comes to defining themselves and what have you. So, and then you can see the next slide off of that. We're developing capacity. Again, it's about relationships and kinship. And the whole idea of relationships and kinships come into focus because oftentimes, again, you know, we've been defined by others. Who has the right to have a history? Well, Métis people do, just like First Nations people do. And that's what we really believe. The core idea in our research is about relationships and kinship networks. Governments, again, have used those race-based definitions to separate us, to divide among us. And we're saying that Métis self-determining process comes into focus. So when we go to an archive and we see Cindy and others in the archive getting excited about being able to access, access public funds, accessing our archives, accessing our services, those are important to all Métis in the province, Keith. And so, I think what happens is that people need to understand that. And Métis people emerged out of a context. And what I did here is I decided to pull, I want to give an example of what I mean by emerging out of a specific context and how they self-determined according to place. Well, I had a wonderful call with an archivist from the Anglican archive. Sorry, and what I learned is that there is an interesting story, and I wanted to share the story. So this is part of the process that our researchers do. We actually do the pre-research. We find the information that supports the actual reports or letters or primary documents we might find. And in this case, you can see box 3, file 3, the correspondence book from 1859 to 1876. What we realized is there was a lead in there, so we followed up on it, Keith, and you can go to the next one here as well. And you can see a letter, and this is an interesting letter, folks. It's by, in 1855, Reverend Cridge came to Victoria, and Métis people like to tell stories, so I thought I'd just tell a story through this, so you can see kinship in action. Reverend Cridge came to Victoria as an Anglican minister, and he became a prominent member of the growing community, endearing himself to many Hudson's Bay Company workers and administrators. He was the Hudson's Bay Company chaplain before the establishment of a colony in 1858. So you can see here that the sources show that in Victoria, Métis people are what they were referred to in the historical record as half-breeds. They were a distinct group, and they were identified amongst other people. In this case, it's colored people. I'll get to that. You can read it right here. If you look at this first line here, let's see. Reverend Cridge was the only clergyman here for about 6 years before the formation of the colony, the chaplain to the Hudson's Bay Company. And I love looking at these old letters because it really helps us to derive insight. And you can go to the next one. So this one here, I'll read it. I'll take the time to read it. It says now this is a letter from a senior official. His name is Bishop Hill. And it was a controversy that he was engaged in with Reverend Cridge, because Reverend Cridge had very definite views around the way they did the service. And he didn't feel like certain aspects of ritualism needed to be done. And one thing led to another. There was a big controversy around it. But it's really interesting that he came up in the middle of this controversy, and I'll explain it here. A quote, most of the principal movers have not been educated in the Church of England. They have not therefore been really of us. Now you can see this top-down approach by the bishop. Yet they have never been any expressed disaffection with the principles of the church. They say they only go to support him, and if he were to go away, they would come back. Many of the half-breeds and colonial people are gone with him. So what happened here, folks, is that the Métis supported the Black community in this case, it appears. And what happened is, I'll try and understand this. This suggests that the half-breed, the Métis, were an engaged part of the community, and they were drawn to Cridge potentially due to his progressive stance on racial equality, as evidenced by his support for the equal rights of Black people. A source highlights Métis presence and collective action in the mid-1870s, and indicating a community with specific allegiances. What's the message here? It speaks, look, Métis people wanted to shape their world. This happened to be a church conflict, but what we've learned is that they acted in their own interest. It was based on relationship and kinship. You can see here they went with the pastor who they identified with, who was part of the chaplain to the Hudson's Bay Company. So when this senior official came in, and they disagreed with him, and look, they stood against it and they moved it. So to me, they self-determined according to place, according to these interrelationships with each other. So, the whole point here, guys, is that Métis really were led by their kinship relationships, first and foremost. And I think that's the important aspect of the research we're doing, Keith. I think you can carry on with the slides, but just to say that what we do is we put these slides, and the nice thing about the work our team is doing is we're all contributing to this kind of work, and these insights are ending up in attribute tables. So we're actually formalizing this work. And it's one thing to just to put the data down, but it's another thing for us to be able to look at it and derive insights, where, hey, Métis people emerged out of a particular context and they were self-determining. And that's the key in terms of our research. It's not fair when we see people on social media say that Métis people were just transients floating across the land in the Pacific Northwest. It's not fair when we see people on social media just unequivocally denying the Métis presence in the Pacific Northwest. And we would challenge other groups, other governments to support all Métis in the province to do this kind of research, to understand the mobility of Métis people, because we ought to be able to have a voice, and Métis people themselves ought to be doing and leading this research. And the map here just shows that, hey, the insights end up on the data. From the data are represented in the GIS. And that's what tells the story. And the great thing about the work that's being done is it's actually community voices. And we're challenging the government and certain Métis groups' definitions and showing Métis as dynamic, mobile kinship networks. And that's a very different story than the stories they're trying to portray Métis people right across Canada, really, but in our view, in the Pacific Northwest. And you can see, Keith, the actual platform we have, it's called Métis in BC. And we want to learn more about your stories, folks, because we think this is exciting and it impacts everybody, because when people, all British Columbians and all Canadians can learn about Métis, and really hear these stories in the most fulsome sense, and they can see these kinship networks in action. And to me, documenting this history is a real powerful act of self-determination. And we want to map these. So I think I'll leave it at that. Other than the last page, you can see, if you want more information, you can contact me. And we certainly have, Cindy, Roseanne, and Karen, our researchers. Please reach out to them. I'm excited about the work we're doing, Keith, and I hope others are too. Thanks for this.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for the work that you guys are doing, and just bringing it back in the context, even in the current legal action we're dealing with, and some of the views you said on social media. I don't understand how people can't. It's funny because even in the media, the CBC, they sort of tie the national Métis definition with the Pauli case, but actually those are two. Pauli didn't define Métis. What Pauli did was define the test it would take to prove Section 35 Métis rights. In that case, it was in Sault Ste. Marie. But most Métis don't even realize, and I've said it on the show before, but I will say it again. Sault Ste. Marie is outside of the historic Métis Nation homeland, but that case won there. Second, the family, the Paulis, didn't have any Red River connections, yet that case won. So what I'm saying is, to your point, there was different ways that we, as children of the fur trade, yes, the Red River was very important, but there was other communities that evolved and formed. And for us to believe that there's only one style of Métis is from one historic ethnogenesis is a little bit unrealistic, especially as you compare to what First Nations have evolved and how they've come along and how they identify their membership and so forth. So we're not trying to change any definition. All we're trying to do is reinforce what the law already says by really establishing when was, like, for anyone to think Métis people, for the record, many of these Métis families you're talking about are Red River families that evolved out westward as well. So I find it just priceless to hear people say there was no existence in the Pacific Northwest. So yeah. I don't know, any feedback, any thoughts on that, Joe? Because I find it weird that people don't.
Like you're alluding to, is the vast mobility of Métis people. We have your family and my family, kinship networks have deep inroads through exploration and what have you, all through the Pacific Northwest. And we're are just beginning to uncover these stories. And we need the latitude and the support to be able to uncover these, repatriate these stories to their people.
Well, on that note, Joe, let's thank you for your work. Everyone, if you want to continue to learn a little bit more, go to mateenbc.ca. It's a live site. You please get out there, check out the website. You can learn more and go through the map and all the sorts of things Joe said. But why don't we cut for one more fiddle song, and then I've got quite a few other updates from the Federation when we come back. I'm going to go back to our friends that I shared in the first video piece. So we'll be right back.
Thanks.
So another classic, probably the most famous Métis tune, fiddle tune, is called Red River Jig, and this is a tune that every fiddler plays differently, and every dancer dances it differently as well. So we're gonna play it for you here. This is my version of the Red River Jig.
So many of us will know that song. That's a very significant classic for us in the Métis world, of course, and certainly acknowledge the work of see Trent and of course Ryan. And obviously that video is hard to believe that's 17 years ago already. But time flies, I guess, when you're having fun, I suppose. And because I remember these things from many years ago, just like yesterday. So, but there's lots of other updates I wanted to share from I guess a other sort of an angle of the Federation, and I'm just going to quickly whip through some items on here. And tonight, because of the media stuff, it ended up taking up a lot of the agenda tonight. But just really quickly, I want to just go through some of the other stories. I know that we shared this in the last show. I know many of you were watching. We were proud to share the work of our bison. Of course, we have Louis Jr. We showed on last month's show of Métis Coffee Talk, and of course, we had the interactive presentation. We've been doing that, offering that, and we're developing programs for the K-12 system. And I just want everyone to know we will continue to look for opportunities to increase youth awareness through these sort of activations. And I just want to thank our provincial youth rep, Jordan Therian, for the work he's doing. He's having a blast with the bison, I guess, costume and so forth, just trying to share Métis culture. And we did that last month. Those of you that haven't seen, there is a June newsletter for one of our partner communities in Clearwater, North Thompson Aboriginal Cultural Center Society. The Clearwater and area, Kamloops, there's many members. They've got their June newsletter out. I just would encourage people to check out their newsletter if you get a chance. We did have a provincial leadership meeting for the BC Métis Federation. We publish all of our minutes, etc. So I don't know if members have had a chance, but certainly our draft minutes from the June 6th meeting have been published, and that was up in Fort St. John. And I do want to thank our partners at the Peace Region Métis Community Association, their president Jocelyn, and a number of the board members. We helped also contribute to a cultural event that weekend, which was great. So I really appreciated that. Some of you might have seen this last week too. We launched our 2025-2026 action plan. This is really, again, for our members. I won't go into it too much, but this is really how our provincial leadership gauges success or not of the investments we're making. So we published about a $4.5 million plan that we've been attracting investments for, reinvesting in things in health, research, as Joe's talking about, what we just saw with Joe, the department. The Federation invests some of the resources we have into those sort of activities, of course, and it takes money to do those things. So we're really, really appreciative of the work that we do. And I hope that members continue to just be aware of some of the initiatives we're working on, things like the emergency assistance program, the health supportive programs. Those are all things we self-fund. And I just want to make it clear, a lot of our money at the Federation, there's another big difference between us and the MNBC. Yes, government provides some resources, but most of our money is through economic development. So we're very proud of the fact that we're trying to be self-sustainable at every turn. And so we're not trying to chase through the courts some sort of access to money as some ambulance chasers. We're trying to make sure that we get advanced Métis rights in a way that makes sense and is actually ensures equality for all Métis in British Columbia. Some of the things we've done, I just mentioned, this was just a family jamboree. What a great event. I just want to congratulate the Peace Region again. It was an extremely well-attended event. It was all about sharing Métis culture. Jocelyn and the team did an amazing job. This is the second year they've done the family jamboree in a way to bring community and culture together up in Fort St. John in early June. And I know some of you may have seen some pictures on our Facebook page, but wow, what a powerful event. And just congratulations to everyone up there. It was very, very, very good event. I also want to say thanks to all of you that on Vancouver Island that were out at the Waves of Change. There was a first shoreline cleanup of 2025 on June 8th in Nanaimo. We had a couple dozen people out, and just thank you to all the members on Vancouver Island and the Nanaimo area that were out with our conservation team with Angel and Zia. What an amazing event. I know there's a post on our website. I won't go through it all, but again, thank you to everyone that got out and just showed that I know First Nations, some have been frustrated thinking when we were talking about conservation, we're trying to take over water rights and land rights. No, we're actually just trying to contribute to conservation and sustainability. And I just want to thank our teams for the work they're doing to perpetuate that and of course show that. Most of us were able to, celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day that just happened this past weekend on June 21st. This is a photo. I want to thank our partners at the North Thompson Cultural Society in Clearwater. They had they said a couple hundred people showed up at their event, and we helped contribute towards that event. I want to congratulate the leadership and all the members there for the work they're doing to continue to raise awareness on how important that day is for including Métis people. It's not just an event for Indigenous people that aren't Métis, it's for all of us. And I'm just really thankful to the work of the Clearwater group. It was a very, very well attended event, and good job to Cindy and the leadership out there. So there's some things coming up here very shortly. In the Peace Region, they're doing a puzzle bag workshop, and they're doing some of the sort of the hide and beading and things like that. So that's on Tuesday, July 8th up in Fort St. John. Just encourage members that are up in Northeast British Columbia, whether you're from Fort St. John or Dawson Creek or Fort Nelson, etc. There's a puzzle bag workshop, and you just can contact the Peace Region Métis Community Association. It's on our website on the events section as well, but otherwise you can just reach out to the Peace Region community. They're also hosting a Friendship Feather workshop, and that's on Tuesday, July 15th, 1 till 4 in Fort St. John. And that'll be at their Peace Region Métis Community Association office. So, reach out to the Peace Region if you're interested in attending that particular workshop. Finally, they've got another workshop coming on Tuesday, July 22nd at the Peace Region up in Fort St. John, a round pin workshop. And we just we contribute to partner communities. And these are the kind of things we are really trying to encourage amongst all the partner communities. people want to be our members, our Métis people, our friends of the Métis. They want to come out and learn and share culture. And these are the kind of things that really help bridge those understandings. In August, they are going right in with the Party Spoons workshop. So that's a real Métis thing for many of us. The spoons, I know myself and my own family that listen to a lot of people who thought they were spoon experts. And so, it's interesting to see these are the actual spoons here that we see in the photo. But if you want to be part of that Party Spoons workshop, it's on Tuesday, August 12th, 1 to 4 in Fort St. John at the Peace Region office. And they've got another event with the Rain Sticks workshop on August 19th. Lots of events up at the Peace Region. A couple other things I want to make sure that the members are reminded of. Remember, we've got employment opportunities at bcmétis.work. That's our updated website. There's many jobs that are being posted. We know that that many of us are continuing to try and find sustainable workforces, whether it's in our as an employer or some of our Métis members looking for work. Please make sure you go to our job portal site at bcmétis.work, and there's some featured employment opportunities right around the corner. Couple other things that are coming up. We have Métis Coffee Talk, not coming up, pardon me, but just a reminder, we have these shows are loaded onto our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, subscribe to @BCMétis. You'll be notified when we post these videos after the fact, and you can share it, of course, with community and things like that. And you can go back and watch and maybe get more time to understand some of the wording and the things that we were talking about. And also, oh, pardon me, I don't know what happened there. We're also on Spotify at Métis Coffee Talk, and so that goes every month after the show. We load it on the audio file, and you can go there and listen to of course, the audio filings. So lots of information, lots of stuff going on. I'm gonna kick back with one more clip from our friends on the Métis Fiddling, and we'll see one more song we'll get out of them before we end the show tonight. I'll come back. Joe, I'm going to ask you for a couple closing comments, so don't leave quite yet, but we'll just enjoy a little bit more of Métis culture on this older fiddling piece that was on in 2008.
Okay, we're gonna do another tune here. This is called Whiskey Before Breakfast, and in the second part, the Métis style has added another bar in there, so we repeat a little section, unlike all the other styles. So this is very unique Métis little lick here. 1, 2, 3.
Well, Joe, that was an interesting take on Whiskey Before Breakfast. I know I've listened to many versions of that particular song, and yeah, that was it's interesting to hear. Obviously, the young man or younger man, Trent Freeman. I don't know Trent at all, but I mean, I did really enjoy the video. Have you heard that extra bar in Whiskey Before Breakfast before?
Yeah, no, I can't say I have. I like it though. I like it when people put their spin on it a bit, and make it their own, eh, Keith?
Well, yeah, that's why I miss Renee, because Renee has a certain sort of characteristic on his fiddling, just like, other fiddlers I've heard across in my own life just growing up, and then just listening to, JJ LaValle, who was on this show many times years ago. Now he's in Saskatchewan. He had his own sort of take on some of those songs, but as much as they're the same songs, they always have a little twist of a personality for each of the players, right? So, but Joe, what any final comments about? Thank you, first of all, thank you for spending an hour with us tonight, giving everyone an update on the research work you're doing. Any final thoughts you want to leave with everyone here tonight?
I'm just so proud of the work that the BCMF and the people that really drive the BCMF are doing. I think it's really exciting. Our department, we're reaching out to grow our team, and we want to understand who's out there, people that might be excited to, understand their history, repatriate their own knowledge, their history, as well as work with others. I think it can change the way that Métis people across the Pacific Northwest are viewed. And I think it's very, I think the work that the Federation does is transformational in terms of it opens up new vistas to understand who people are and how they can contribute to the fabric of BC. And so that's why I'm just so proud to be involved. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And what's the website they can go if they want to learn a little bit more about our historical evolution in the Pacific Northwest?
métisinbc.ca.
Perfect. Well, Joe, I really appreciate that, and thank you for the time and attention. I know it's a lot of labor and a lot of work just to even uncover this archival information. But congratulations to you and of course Bruce, Tanner, Roseanne, Cindy,
Karen.
Karen. I mean, we really appreciate how you guys are continuing to advance and just help people understand that we're not making these aren't fictitious stories. These are actual facts of our evolution and our experience. And so I say to everyone tonight, as you watch the current CBC story, for example, don't buy into the rhetoric. Don't worry about debating issues on social media. I've seen a lot of things going back and forth. And I would just say to everyone, it's okay that we have differences of opinions. It's okay that MNBC wants to be the leader. That's their choice. Well, I'm not going to argue with them anymore. The Federation is just trying to fight for equality for our Métis members. And it's not okay for anyone to say you can't join one group over another. That's just not. There's no law. We don't have the Indian Act, like a Métis Act that says that's exclusive one way or the other. And so we're gonna hold Canada accountable for what they've done to in negatively impacting members. Like I showed you two of many examples we've got where young people had their lives permanently damaged because of the poor public policy and lack of access, and then Canada responding and hiding behind, well, we're really just following this and this and this. That doesn't, we believe they're wrong, and we're going to let the courts rule on it. And we're seeing more and more cases where they have ruled exactly what we're saying. So we'll see how this plays out. So to everyone tonight, just hope you understand what that case is about. It's about equality for all Métis in British Columbia. We don't want anyone to feel they have to leave the BCMF just to get services from another organization. And just for the record, again, I clarify, the Federation was happy with MNBC deleting the services as long as they gave our members access, but they chose a different path years ago, and we've got more than ample evidence to show what they've done. I've given you a small sampling of those things tonight. So with that, I just want to say thank you everyone for listening in. You can email me anytime you want at k.henry@bcmétis.com. And I want to thank Joe again for the show. And we look forward to seeing you in July. We will run. Last year we didn't run a July show, but this year we're going to, because we're getting ready. There's a big event in Terrace in August coming up. We're hoping that you're save the date for August 15th, 16th, and 17th of the Skeena River Music Festival with our friends up in Terrace, British Columbia, the Métis community there, the Skeena River Métis Community Association. So we'll be seeing you at the end of July, and I hope all of you have a great Canada Day. Won't be a long weekend because Canada Day is on Tuesday this year, but I know many people will take probably Monday off as well. But we wish all of you a great upcoming Canada Day off, and remember of our place as Métis people in this country. And be proud of who you are, and never let anyone tell you that you can't be Métis if you're part of one group over another. We'll work hard to make sure that there's equality. Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.